we hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I'm your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. I'm here today with Ted Fogliani, and it's going to be an incredible discussion. Ted, I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm very excited to be here and be a part of your energy and your show and share some of what we know.
All right, excellent. Before we get into the content, let me tell you a little bit about Ted. He's a seasoned entrepreneur and executive with over 25 years of experience as a CEO in founding and building successful companies in e-commerce, SaaS, tech-enabled services, manufacturing, and logistics. He brought these skills and experience from his years as a bootstrapped and growth-minded CEO to his role at Whittier Trust, which is one of the largest privately held multifamily offices on the West Coast. So welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that intro. I don't hear about myself very often, so
Yeah,
thanks for
there you
sharing that.
go. Busy. You're
Yeah.
busy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Ted. So before we get into the content, here is what we are dying to know. Tell us a little bit about your family.
I come from a very long line of entrepreneurs dating back to the early 1900s. I have been, as you mentioned, an entrepreneur and founder for a long time. A pretty normal life. I have some unique parts of my recent life. I have 4 children. One of them is just graduating college, and then I have 17-year-old triplets. And so when we look at pivoting, and we'll probably talk about pivoting in this session a little bit, pivoting from 1 to 4 children in a day can be very traumatic. But you solve it, and I'm a process guy, and we went through 14,000 diapers, so you can imagine the logical challenges I had. But it's all turned out great. I have great children, and you learn how to manage what life throws at you, and that's really a good example of it.
So tell us, when did you find out that you were having triplets? Like, how far along?
Yeah, so we had the one child. We did in vitro, and because we just didn't get pregnant what I would call the normal way. And we went into the sonogram person. It was this wonderful lady. She was probably in her late 70s. She had probably done this 7 million times. And she looked at me and she said, "Sir, you may want to sit down." And of course, me, I said, "I don't need to sit down. I know that there's 2. They put in 2 eggs." She says, "You may want to sit down. There's 3." And so my first words were, "Get somebody else in here. You don't know how to use that thing." That was my first reaction. I was wrong. She knew how to use it, and we had the triplets. And so it was pretty early. My wife was amazing. She carried them to 34, 35 weeks. They came out 5.5 and 6 pounds, which is very large triplets, by the way. And so we were very blessed. Great. I'm a big fan of NIC units because they care about kids like it's the first one they've seen that day. So we were very lucky, but we sat in the parking lot after we found out and didn't talk for 30 minutes. We're all trying to run businesses and be organized and be under control. And you realize that sometimes you're not going to be under control. You're going to have to let it go.
Yeah. So do you have 2 identicals and then a fraternal?
Yeah. So I should have. Yeah. So both eggs took and 1 split. So identical girls and a boy, and my older son is a boy. So I have 2 and 2.
Nice.
Perfect. Just perfect.
Yeah. I am a mother of twins.
Oh my God.
And what's funny is I have an older son and then actually spontaneous twin daughters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But my daughters are fraternal.
They are. Okay.
Not identical. But let me tell you, to say that it was a surprise is the understatement of the century.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember at the time, I was about halfway through my pregnancy when I found out that I was having twins, and they told me versus me telling them, right? And so I was just floored, absolutely, positively floored. I think, and part of what I kept saying at the time was, how could I not know, right? I didn't know. But what's funny is that because I took them to term, there is a point at which you can trust me. I would have known, right?
Yes.
something is going on here.
Yes.
It's not one child.
There's no way this is one. This can't be one. Yeah.
This cannot be one, right? But I think at the time I was just pretty blown
It
away.
wasn't the plan, right?
No.
It wasn't what you were expecting. It's you got to
Uh-uh.
manage it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like you say, you just manage it,
Just do
right?
it.
Yeah, you just do it. And you know what's funny is that even at the time, obviously I had a toddler, you already had a
Mhm.
toddler. I think that the thing that I was most concerned about in anticipation actually ended up to be the thing that is the hardest thing with multiple kids, which is getting out the door.
Yeah.
It is really challenging to get out the door with a lot of children, especially some that are all the same age.
They all need the same things.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means you don't go out as much, although you have to. Like, very big on getting our kids out to restaurants early because I don't want to be that one that can't go out. You've got to
Right.
get them around the noise and they got to learn how to behave.
Mhm.
But we decided we were not getting a triplet stroller because I said, I'm never going to be alone with these three. So there's no need to have a triple stroller. There's always going to be somebody with me.
Oh
So,
my God, that's so
but it's an
funny.
effort. It's an effort.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Ted, let's get into this because I think one thing I didn't say in the intro, which I do think is really interesting. So you had all of these CEO roles. I believe at Whittier Trust now, you're on the business development side, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Which is also, and I think this is interesting because this is also a new role for them, correct?
It is. I would tell you in some ways it's a new role a little bit for the industry. It's very rare for an ex-CEO to come into this role. When I was first getting hired here, even some of my peers were like, you don't have any wealth management experience. You haven't been in this industry forever. And traditionally, the sales role is a really good client advisor who goes out and meets somebody and convinces you to trust me, and you trust me, and then you come in, and then I manage that relationship as an advisor. That wasn't what I wanted to go do. So I think that we do leverage my entrepreneurial background because a lot of our clients are, I shouldn't say, we have 650 clients, and I would tell you that over 600 of them are entrepreneurs that grew and sold a business. We have more of that than inherited money in our family office. So I speak that language. And I think that's what was
Right.
interesting to the company. But I have the same title now that I had when I was 27 years old.
Yeah.
To a little bit of your behind the question is, wait a minute, Ted, you went from a CEO to a high-end VP. I was like, it was a decision. I had been CEO for a long time. It comes with a lot of weight, comes with a lot of responsibility. I had a good succession plan when I left my last company. I had a great partner. He is a great CEO. But I get a lot of, wait a minute, Ted, I need to understand this. But it's been great for me. I think I have found a way to enjoy being a part of a company that I don't carry all the burden anymore. And I think we'll talk about some of that, how I
Yeah.
used to hire and how I would hire people now. And succession planning is a part of it, and not having to worry about all the things that a CEO worries about has been really nice for me personally and health wise, I think.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. All right, let's think for a minute, take you back. And what's one piece of conventional wisdom that you followed early on, only to realize that it really was not right for you?
Yeah, so that's a good way to frame that, by the way, because I'm going to admit a mistake. I'm going to admit that something that I did, I had to change. I made a lot of mistakes. It's actually what's created probably how I act today. The one that comes to mind first for me is how I hired people around scalability of businesses in general. I would tell you early on, I hired people that would do it the way I would do it. I'm going to find somebody that does it my way because then I can trust that they're going to do it the way I would do it. And there is some logic to that. If you're in a process-driven business, you want that to happen. I found that limited scale and it limited innovation. And so maybe 10 years into building my first business, I realized, oh my gosh, I need to stop hiring myself. I need to hire complementary people who actually do it differently than me. I need to bring that into the business, into the boardroom, into the company. And so that's one that when I did it wrong, it has implications that go further than a year. Like you built up a company, you look around, everybody's thinking the same way. That's not innovation. And so it really limited scale for me. And so that pivot, which happened deep into some of my businesses, was something I would have done very differently if I looked back.
I think that is really an interesting thing for us to talk a little bit about because I think it's so natural to want when you start your business, you're doing all the roles. When you hire people, of course you want them to do it how you do it. Because I think so many founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs are so committed to whatever product or service they are offering that they consider themselves to be the best at that,
Yeah, I was
right?
the service. I was part of the product. I mean,
That's
so
right.
why would you go too far outside of that if the brand or the service was something that I had created or that the founder created?
Right.
The logic is do more of that. Just do more of that. Now, I learned that it wasn't the most logical way to do it, but that it makes sense early. It felt really normal. It felt like I was doing the right thing until I started seeing the impact of innovation in other companies. Wait a minute, how is that person being able to be a leader but not do everything? And I had not gotten to that position yet.
You bring up another great point, which is where is the point at which you stop trying to do everything,
Yeah,
right? And I've been on this really big kick recently around getting my clients to really only work in what they uniquely bring to the business, that is the highest value,
right. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
As opposed to just because you can does not mean that it's the best use of your time.
Yeah, I'm smiling for two reasons. I'm going to tell you the first one first. So, to go back to my wife, when she was having the triplets, someone in the Midwest had delivered quads, quote, naturally. So she went to her doctor and she said, "Hey, doctor, can you deliver my triplets vaginally?" The doctor says, "Just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something." Right. So, to this point of skill, and my very first mentor, I was in the electronics manufacturing business. My very first mentor was one of the founders of Flextronics, which is a business up by where you are. And he laid out all the roles: engineering, quality, sales, whatever. He said, "Ted, here's where you need to stay focused. This is your role. Hire to do the rest of this." Now, it goes back to problem one of how I did that hiring. But you're right on. Keep people in a role where they will excel and do what they're supposed to do. It's just hard when you have nine hats in the first few years of a business.
Absolutely. Let's talk for a minute about this because I'm
Mhm.
not necessarily right about this, but I will
Mhm.
tell you, I also think that we sometimes have a very elevated view of our own skill level,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And not to say, I'm thinking about myself.
yeah.
I think of myself as a unique little unicorn out there, right?
Yeah.
So, we often say as coaches, as business consultants, you read this all the time. Well, is 80% enough?
Mhm.
Right? If they can do, isn't done better than perfect, right? All these things. And I think in some ways that's true. I think in other ways, we overestimate how good we are.
Or how important we are.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, in my world, it was how important I was. I knew I was good or bad. I'm self-deprecating. We all have insecurities that are behind the confidence. Everybody, a lot of people have that. It was, I have to do that. I'm so important. And you're like, wait a minute. Because if someone could break through that and do it, and you realize they did a good job, you realize, oh, it's okay that someone else does it. And that's a maturity level that does not happen in
Right.
my world in my first 5 to 10 years of being a CEO. It happened later for me,
Right.
to the detriment of the business, probably, to tell you the truth.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. You've had a lot of success. And what's one thing at this point in your career that people just assume Ted has got that all figured out? And underneath it, you still wrestle with it.
Wow, that's a loaded question. I think it's that what's the definition of winning or success? Like, to me, I'll never be satisfied to not produce something. Could have all the success in the world. I'm built to work. I'm built to produce something. I'm built to honor the all the people that have come before us, whether it's in my family or my examples of hardworking people. Who am I to stop producing stuff? Now, again, there's a limit to that, but like my dad retired. My dad was a very successful attorney. My mom worked with him. He didn't retire at 60 when they could have. He continued to produce and to help and to be a good member of society. So I think it's sometimes when people are like, why are you still working so hard? Now, my current job compared to running a business is not as hard. Like when you don't have to worry about payroll and you don't have to pick the HR policies and the benefits plans. So I feel like I'm working diligently, but not without the stress. So I think it's just people think that everybody's got everything figured out. And I don't always have everything figured out. I think every entrepreneur says, I got this. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. I got this. Don't worry about it. And then we're all up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. going, how am I gonna solve that? Like I just
How
told
am I
them I
going to
could do
make it?
this. How am I
That's
gonna
right.
make it? And I do that today on trying to grow Whittier Trust. I used to do it when I was at Shipcom saying, okay, I got to get more customers. And I woke up for a lot of years, which is very irrational, especially as I look back going, tomorrow I could lose all my customers. It's not very rational. You're not going to lose them all in a day. But sometimes that's what a business owner does. Is like, I've worked so hard to get here. And at 4 in the morning, you're like, what if they just left tomorrow? So that stress, you're not allowed to show that at the office. You're not allowed to show that when
Right.
you're socially out in the market because everywhere you turn to someone who's judging how confident you are, how comfortable you are. But I don't think people realize that most businesses, it might be the other statement of the year, most businesses aren't as healthy as they appear to be, right? Most people aren't financially as secure as you might think they are. And I've learned that here at, even in my new role here at Whittier Trust, when I'm out there, and even my closest, most intimate friends, like I think they're at a certain level in life, and you're like, oh wow, I thought I had a different impression of that, right? So I think it's that that I got everything figured out because I don't, right? I'm trying to manage kids and wives and marriages and kids going to college and getting out of college and a new job and learning a new industry. And there's a duck under the water swimming like crazy sometimes.
Yeah, it's like the iceberg metaphor, right? Where
Yeah,
you
there's a
only
lot going
see
on.
what's on top of the water, but the majority of it is happening inside. But I think it is worth saying, and you said it in the beginning, but I think it's really brave to make a decision. Being a CEO of a company is a huge responsibility, and you've got a lot of mouths to feed aside from your own family
Yeah.
and a lot of decisions to make. And I think making a different decision for yourself and really trailblazing what you're doing. But to be able to, let me ask you this. I don't know. This is just like you said, title wise, right? Do you feel like your ego takes a hit because you don't have the CEO title anymore?
So I don't, and I can walk through the how or the why. When they interviewed me here, and I had, by the way, I haven't interviewed for a job in 30 years, right? My resume, I didn't even like my resume, but they didn't look at my resume per se.
Right.
The our HR person here, Daniela, who's amazing, her first question, we're at a little coffee place. I met my current boss on a Friday. I met her on a Monday. First question, Ted, how is it going to feel to hear the word no? And I was like, wow, that is a great question. And I said, I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it because I don't need to control everything at this new business for me. So my ego hasn't taken a hit at all. I proudly tell people I'm in biz dev. They know that I've landed in a place that's good for me and for the business. And most of my career, I never had my title on my card. When you met me at my first manufacturing business, you would have just thought I was a sale guy. Cool. Because actually, I learned this late too. You don't want to be the CEO talking about pricing and bidding on new deals because they look at you and Ted, you actually can lower the price. You want to be able to say, I don't have any control. That's the price. So one of the reasons I took my title off was I didn't want people to know I owned businesses. But I'm okay with it. I didn't really have a struggle with it when I took the job. There's implications other than just the title. There's CEOs make a certain amount of money, right? My role is a different number. I love it. I'm a very happy person. But I also have a pretty good perspective on life. I think there's a lot of things that could be worse. This might be a little deep for this group, but like a year or two ago, I said, you know what the most important thing is in terms of earning and taking care of family is staying alive. I can't earn anything if I'm dead, right? So health. I talked to one of my favorite CEOs. I've been in a CEO roundtable with him for 25 years. We were meeting just a week ago. He said, we were talking about health a little bit like, what's our routine? Are we working out? Are we going to the gym? And he literally said, Ted, sleep. Don't forget about sleep. And his words were, I used to wear it as a badge of honor that I only slept 4 or 5 hours a night. And I did that too. I don't need to sleep. I work till midnight. I get up at 5. And that's not good. But I did it for years and it was a badge of honor. like we thought it was a badge of
Right.
honor. So letting go of some of those stereotypes for me was, I'm going to work hard. I'm a hard worker. I'm a diligent worker. I'm a team member, all those great things. But my ego has never had an issue with my new role because I think I'm adding value, which for me is the most important thing.
Awesome. All right. Thinking back on all of the leadership roles that you've been in, what was one thing you had to unlearn to become a great leader?
One of them was don't be afraid to hire someone who's going to take your job, right? It's just succession
Ooh,
planning, right? And I think that when it was not even just for my role, but I learned it late, or I learned it bad, and then I had to unlearn it, to use your words. I had to culturally shift my company to hire people who wanted their boss's job and to have the boss be comfortable with that and not threatened by that. Hey, if we grow, everybody's going to go up, right? And sometimes you hire people and say, I want to just pigeonhole them because I think I can control them and manage them forever. And I didn't think I did a good job early hiring for succession with hiring someone that would want the next job, including my own. My last
right.
business, I did a great job at that. I brought a partner in early, knowing he was going to be the next CEO, and I was never threatened by him. I was supportive of him. I was excited when he was going to take it over because he's allowing me to do this, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's back to that, who did I hire? So there was two parts of that. One is don't be afraid to hire replacements, even for yourself. And the other one, which is harder to solve, was hire who you need and not who you can afford. Because when you're growing a business and you're bootstrapped, it was like, okay, I'm going to hire a VP of ops. I'm going to pay them X. And then I tell you what the X was, and you're like, Ted, that's no VP of ops. That's a supervisor. But it's what I could afford. I could only afford $50,000. But I titled them up like crazy. It was pretty famous for over titling. I would go back and I would find, when I was raising capital, I would raise more specifically to hire better talent that I needed and not only the people that I could afford. And that's another one of those ones that has multi-year implications on a business that I had no idea when I was doing it. It was almost a look back in the first business that I tried to change in the second business.
Yeah. Wow. So many interesting things there. It's almost hard to know. I think this idea of not just understanding the value of of replacing yourself, but also modeling and setting the expectation that everybody is looking and training, right?
That's right. You're helping them replace you.
That's right.
That's a cultural, it's actually one of the things I've found very exciting about Whittier Trust was that they seem to understand that. Now they've been around, depending on how you look at it, either 50 years or our original family goes back almost 100 years. So we've been doing succession in our families and we've applied that logic to our employees. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. There's rules around succession. There's training around succession from roles, just like we talked about, from any role all the way up to the CEO. I had never been able to afford that sort of education because it's a cultural commitment to how you described it, education, bringing them along, supporting them, inspiring them, not letting them get excited because some other company wants to give them a 10% raise and leave. It's like, hey, trust me, I got you. You're going to be here for longer. And I promise you, net, you're going to be more successful.
Right.
That's a cultural thing.
I think the other thing is really supervisors, managers, leaders often think of their team members as people who need to do tasks.
Yeah,
You need
yeah,
to
yeah.
execute on, and yes, you
And it
do.
is part of that. You're right. They do
Right.
need to. That's right. Yeah.
I think the part often, though, that gets missed, and because I will ask when I work with leaders, one of the
Mhm.
first things I ask them is, do you know what the career aspirations are of your team members?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they look at me like I have three heads, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, first of all, that is one of your responsibilities as
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
manager,
It's a good point.
right?
Yeah.
Number two is like, how do you know what to delegate to them
Yeah.
if you don't know what their strengths are and or the ways in which they want to grow, right? Isn't the best thing to meet the company's goals and the department's goals by elevating the people on your team so that everybody wins?
Yeah. When you ask that question and you get a bad answer, I don't have to use a calculator to tell you their employee turnover rate. I know what it
Right.
is. If you ask them
Exactly.
that question and they're like, oh my gosh, this person, they want to do this and they're going to go to school, you're like, I promise you the turnover rate's going to be a difference of 15, 20 points on that. And turnover is
Absolutely.
expensive, right?
It is
It's
indeed.
expensive.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
like that question to your leaders, because if they don't have a great answer, they're either going to have to hear you ask the question, have a crappy answer, and they better go back to the office and fix it the next day.
That's right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh shit, that's a good question. I should go
Yeah.
fix that. But
I
yeah,
should know the answer to that.
I should have a better answer. I should
That's right.
know.
Yeah.
And there were times where I didn't have a good answer. And in the most recent one before my role here at Whittier, if you said to me, I knew exactly the answer, I would have told you, Greg will take my job the minute I'm ready to go. Like,
Right.
that meant that I knew what his aspirations were, and I knew about him for a long time, which is a good thing. We talked about it often. I'm not even saying I met his timeline perfectly, right? But we knew what was coming. And
Right.
don't ask me if I felt the same way on my first business, by the way, because I wouldn't
Right.
have as good. I didn't know as intimately, or did I give anybody the opportunity?
Right.
I didn't hire my replacement in my first business.
And I think the other part of this, which kind of plays into this whole thing of hiring your replacement, is are you willing to give credit where credit is due?
Yeah,
And this is not just about ego, but it's about how you define success in your role.
yeah,
Because before you were a manager, or a lot of people who are managers and leaders have these dual responsibilities. In other
sure.
words, I still have my own individual contributions to make, and I run a
And I
team.
manage. Yeah, yeah.
The thing that I encourage all leaders to think about is your success is my success,
That's yes.
right?
Yeah,
As opposed to, I see my success as the things that I can check off of my list.
yeah. I'm good. Yeah,
I'm good.
I'm good. I don't know how they're doing, but I'm good. Yeah,
And redefining the way that you look at success. And then again, I cannot say it enough, give credit where credit is due,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That actually enhances your credibility. It does not take away from it.
No, but I also think of the things that I learned and unlearned was to do that, and it's a good thing. It'll sound bad for a minute. It's building in accountability, because if you don't have it, they can't feel success, and nor can I know if they're doing a good job. So there's also a side of me wanting to make sure that someone's doing a good job. But the benefits are way more on the accountability. That wasn't really a great big word, I don't feel, 20 years ago. I think it's become more popular in the last 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
So I didn't have it in my business that I started in 1997 or 98 or whatever. I had it in the last business. But then you can assign the success to the person, the team. The incentive plans that I think are built in the positive companies today are individual, team, department. They're not just on your own.
That's
And
right.
that is not how it existed 20 years ago. 20 years
Right.
ago, did Ted check his boxes? He's the manager. Good for him. Doesn't matter. So I think there's some more camaraderie that's happening, but not every company is, of course, it's not worldwide.
And I think we could have a whole different conversation on consequences, because
Yeah.
let me tell you, I deal with that a lot in my coaching practice of leaders and managers. I think what is so interesting, I totally understand it, but I think one of the hardest things for managers to do is understand, get to be liked and a good person,
Yeah.
and hold people accountable.
Oh gosh, that's the gold standard right there.
That's
When the
right.
ones that do, you can spot them a mile away.
That's right. And what I see all the time is either I want to be liked, therefore I'm not willing to impose consequences,
Yeah.
or I'm so conflict avoidant that I
Yeah,
just don't want
no.
to deal with it.
I'm trying to, you think I'm crazy to train my kids this early about this stuff, but to me, that's empathy. So the combination of those things around helping the person that works for you, and to your point of understanding where their goals are and all this other stuff, like I talk to my kids a lot about empathy. Empathy is a two-edged sword. Like it actually is a place where, as my companies started to get above 100 or 150 employees, empathy can be a problem. You can be too empathetic. Like I was so worried about how are those people living off those wages? I need to pay them more, but you're looking at a bottom line and return. So it gets tricky, but I would trade strong empathy over no empathy every single time. And I think that helps in that manager relationship a lot, of trying to be a good manager, strong, accountable, but also like, I get you. I've been you. I know what that feels like. And that's a hard one to, it's a hard one to
Right.
teach, actually.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move the conversation to one unconventional habit or mindset shift that you think has really helped you grow your businesses and or really yourself.
Yeah, so I changed the definition of this, but it's just outwork. Just early on, it was start earlier and later. Not the smartest way to do it, but it was, I'm going to beat everybody in. And it wasn't even just at my company. Like, I'm going to get to the gym at 5, be out of there at 6, be at my office at 6:15, go work, whatever. So it's always been outwork. I've never really been outsmart. I would never claim to be whether I claimed it or not, I'm not the smartest person in any room. So it's been to outwork, and I've just morphed the definition of that. Like, I no longer feel the need to be in the office at 5:30 a.m., especially in this business, a different business model. But some of my companies ran 2 shifts, some of them ran 3 shifts. So there was stuff to go do, but I had to start realizing that my time was better spent either resting or socializing or working out or whatever it was. But I'm from a family and an environment and examples of my friends and my mentors of you. It's not outwork, outwit, outlast. I don't want to steal from Survivor, but like, it's surely outwork, outlast. That comes with some potential damage. So my max pain threshold was 3 weeks in a row, 19 hours a day in the factory working, which led to collapse. That didn't lead to like, boy, I need an afternoon off. That led to, I may not wake up tomorrow. So I found my max, which is good, and you back off it a little bit. But I've just been someone that you put your time in. I never really had vacation until I got a job here. Like, when you're working for yourself, it's not really called vacation. I don't think, just paying yourself. But I enjoy contributing and outworking people. I found that sometimes the time and the thinking around how to work efficiently can bring value quicker for me.
Okay. All right. It's interesting because I think I had another guest on the podcast who, and this is what I love about this, right? We're talking about unconventional wisdom, about conventional wisdom, because she said
Yeah.
the exact opposite of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
which is just the best, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is the point of this podcast is to show that there's lots of different roads to success.
That's right. That's right.
And I think it's interesting, right? Because you said two things, which is work smart and work hard.
The work smart came later, as you can imagine. So I'm just, your other guest is probably right. If her answer was the Richard Branson, I work 4 hours a day, but they're the craziest, hardest, busy hours of my life. I wish, right? I literally cannot. I'm learning how to do it to turn the brain off a little bit. I go to a restaurant, relaxing with the family. I'm literally doing calculations on whether or not this restaurant is cash flow positive or not. That's not healthy. That's bad. That's a bad thing, right? So I'm incapable of just like relaxing and
Yeah.
saying, and so it would probably never work for me if I was engaged and employed and working at something to go in for 2 or 3 hours. And it's really why one of the reasons I left my last CEO role is my role was changing. I thought there was someone better to take the reins over in the place of that business. And I didn't need to go in there and sit at a desk for 3 hours and make a few, like, that's not productive for me. So your other guess is probably more accurate, but my work harder, work smarter. Now, guess what? I don't go to the gym at 5. I go to the gym at 6. It's more palatable, right? I don't, this is so sad, but I'll admit it here. Recently, I decided to not rush to the gym and rush my workout so I could get to work faster. I was like, you know what? The world's going to be okay if I work out for an hour and 10 minutes versus 45. And for a long time, most of my life, got 40 minutes. I got time. I got a quick shower. Got to go. So I am improving, but I'm also old. I should have figured this out a little while ago, right? It's a little late to do this. In fact, I think your other guest is right, by the way. But I think it's good that someone can share an idea, that someone goes, I'm a little more like what Ted's doing, but I would like to be more like what the other guest was doing. Perfect. That's growth. That's like
There you go.
development, right? So
Yeah.
don't do what I did. I would probably put a little warning as this goes on, this gets pushed out. Be careful what you do, because things get put at risk. I think I just sent a message out like, I missed stuff. I missed birthdays. I missed dinners. I missed stuff. And I regret that, right? It's not a good thing. but you then change your job. People see me now in my new role physically. I don't even know I have a new job. Some of these people, Ted, you look way more relaxed. You look way healthier. You look different. And it's like, and I walk up to them like, oh, because they've known me most of my life with that stress and that weight of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Don't do it the way Ted did it.
That's the message of the podcast.
That's the message. Yeah. Although I hope my kids do. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, last question. Most leaders secretly battle with imposter syndrome, no matter how successful they are. So, this is really a two-parter. One is if it's going to come up for you now, what circumstances might you have that sort of lack of confidence or that little trigger? And then how do you get yourself moving forward again?
I went between my jobs. I consulted for a really successful media company. And these younger founders and CEOs, I was the experienced consultant they brought in, and they had massive imposter syndrome and they didn't need it. Right. So I haven't had the luxury to have that problem. I couldn't. I couldn't worry about that. My whole financial life was online at risk for most of my career. That's just how it was. You made a lot of money, but then there's taxes and cash flow and inventory, like all that stuff, right?
And a lot of kids.
And a lot of kids, right? And I started my first business with no kids and a really understanding, patient, tolerant wife who got bait and switched.
Yeah.
We got engaged. I had a great job. I was making a lot of money. And literally a month later, I started a business, which I told her about. And then we got married 6 months later, and I made no money for 5 years. Okay, so that's the ultimate bait and switch, and that was a tricky one. But she was amazing. But no kids, limited expenses. Pivot at 47, which is a whole nother story. A traumatic pivot, not a great pivot. Most people would curl up in a ball. To your point, retreat. How do I pick myself up, right? So for me, the pick myself up was reach out to my network. I pick myself up was, hey, everybody, here's the problem I'm going through. I've been in YPO for a long time. I probably know what YPO is. And what was amazing to me is I reached out to a lot of my network. I told them my situation. Business is going bad, starting a new business, whatever this was. 100% of the people I spoke with said, I've been through that. Not 90%, not 95%, 100%, because it's happened to all of us. We've all had to recover, re-engage, pick ourselves up. Don't complain. You can complain, not a lot. You can, but so the answer for me, the more important part of your question is, what do you do to get back engaged? And you just do it. You just say, hey, I'm having triplets. I'm going to deal with it. Hey, my business failed. I'm going to start a new one. Funny part. Hey, my business failed. My wife wants me to go get a job. I'm going to go start a business instead. That's a trickier one, right? But for me, you just go do it. And it's not going to be pain-free. And it's not going to be easy. And it's going to extend the time with which you recover, because you could recover faster in other ways. But that's just how I did it. I just didn't make an excuse for being miserable. I just said, failed, made a mistake. I'm not the first person who's done that. And if you look at any major big leader that we all know, right? They didn't all start making their money at 30 years old. Some of them failed and started. I've used the story a few times. Qualcomm was started by a guy named Irwin Jacobs. He was 50 years old when he started that business. It's a multi-billion dollar. He wasn't 40. It was not his first business.
Right.
There's a lot of examples of that. Unfortunately for me, I heard about them and they were personally
Right.
delivered to me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
Right. And I think you said something really important, which this conventional wisdom about suffer in silence,
Yeah.
that is bad advice.
It's bad, but it's hard to be that vulnerable, right? No one wants to
Right.
say I suck or I failed or it didn't go well or I let somebody down. It's hard, right? But gosh, we all know this. The lessons you learn and the scar tissue, my value, whether it's at Whittier or when I'm helping my friends grow businesses, my value is not the good stuff I did. My value is all the bad stuff that happened to me. That's the value. Anybody can tell you, oh, have good cash flow and charge more margin and have this. The one that says, hey, here's what happened to me that I would change. And as a founder CEO, you're not allowed 100 mistakes. I can almost tell you the 3 to 6 mistakes I made that were ish. And those are where I can help somebody, whether it's at Whittier Trust or working with entrepreneurs in the community.
Right.
So I'm not afraid to share those. I'm a relatively transparent human being. I'm not afraid to talk about that, but I'm probably abnormal for most CEOs. They want you to think everything's perfect because they want you to think everything's perfect.
Exactly. Ted, oh my goodness, thank you so much. I really appreciate the transparency. I think I find it incredibly refreshing.
I
And
appreciate that. appreciate
Yeah.
that. I appreciate you letting me share that here with you, and I love how you do this. It's been a great time.
Yay. All right, friends. You have been talking to Ted Fogliani,
Yeah.
and I am your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. If you're interested in family trusts, in consultancy around being a founder, we'll have Ted's information in the show notes. For me, I would just love for you to subscribe to my newsletter. We send it out once a week. It's got one really good tip, one action, and one fun photo every week. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. Ted, thank you again so much for such a great conversation. And we will see you next time on Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. Go out there and be a better human.
Where cliches come